The oldest artist in this exhibition still living is 95-year-old Norman LaLiberte, who for 20 years taught art at St. Mary's College just to the west of Notre Dame University. This piece, done in 1962, is entitled St. Christopher, showing the traveling saint with various, again, symbolisms, palm fronds, palm trees, a religious orb, carrying someone on his back as he crosses this river of fishes below, while various other holy men represented in these figures look on passively. As we move to the right of Norman LaLiberte's work, then we see the Indiana artist Mo Marks. One time a northern Indiana resident, he now resides near Bean Blossom, Indiana, and he acquires objects or found objects in his work. He carves, he paints. Having made his living as a sign painter, his works take on a very frontal quality. And in this painting called, mixed media painting I should say rather, called Magic Moment, he posits the idea of heaven and of course hell. And if we pulled back from this work, we can start to see that there is a skeleton beneath the little girl and she's pointing upwards towards heaven. If we look in very closely, we see the artist has carved a cross like one would do perhaps in the old days of the old school desks, even a representation of a spiraling galaxy. So is it science or religion, he perhaps asks. Even this shooting star in the work represents maybe a symbolism of hope or one of dread, as primitive peoples once thought. Mo Marks, The Magic Moment. And just to the right of this, we have works by the Reverend Howard Finster called Snakes, a snake handling evangelical artist turned folk artist. And again, Steve Lerma, Mexican folk artist, with his El Diablo, welded and painted steel sculpture, part of his Day of the Dead series from his cultural background. And then as we pan on to the right, we see a cross-like configuration of 19th century works by Currier and Ives called the Morning Prayer and the Evening Prayer, flanked by Lisa Kasilevich's Up to the Moment representation of two small African-American children in the Black Lives Matter movement, shot in Chicago by the artist just within the early phases of 2020. And so we move on here to Roger Brown, famous for being a Chicago imagist, and his 1987 lithograph, Jim and Tammy Faye, the Jim and Tammy Faye Show, one of the early televangelists bringing the message or the word to people and requesting large donations to support his Jim and Tammy Faye Baker theme park. We see representations of crosses by Steve Lerma, Reverend Ralph Holdeman. We move on down the wall to William Gropper and his 1930s lampoon of the fat cat senators inhabiting the early stages of the Depression, arguing over perhaps the New Deal. And there are other works as we pan around the gallery that represent portraits of power, ephemeral works. Here's Rudy Giuliani, an assigned cover being announced as Person of the Year after 9/11. We also see Shannon Lyne's 2017 collage called Try Harder, a one-time evangelical Christian now turned agnostic liberal. Shannon Lynes uses his collage to help him mitigate perhaps the current conditions that we all are living together under. We see Steve Moriarty's work here, San Sebastian in El Salvador in 1986, shot by the artist. He shot several of these. Here we see an unfortunate drug mule and he has been knifed in a street fight, and the artist not only photographs him in an alternative process, but he also tints the work, which is printed on a type of handmade paper with coffee, representing perhaps the Banana Republic's Central American culture, and he actually uses real thread to stitch up the image of the scar on the person's stomach. Steve Moriarty, San Sebastian, El Salvador. And immigration is certainly on the mind of the artist Mary Amador. This painting, one of her children at a younger age, clutching what seems to be bouquet of buoys or little safety floats, fishing floats. The name of this is called Is My Name Safe in Your Mouth, done in 2013. The artist states, as an artist, teacher, and mother, I have learned the importance of sharing your story. Telling my story through my work enables me to self-reflect and hopefully build a connection with the viewer. My portraits are experiences from my childhood or current events that have impacted my life personally. Growing up as a Hispanic girl in a predominantly white community, I found comfort in the outdoors, church, and family. My work juxtaposes the influence of the environment I grew up in, my Spanish culture, and religious references, both subtle and obvious.